I never thought my parents would treat my child like an outsider, like he didn't belong. But there I was, sitting in my living room, staring at my phone in disbelief. It started with a simple text. "Hey, sweetie, we need to talk about Thanksgiving," my mom had written. Her words casual, like she hadn't spent the past few years treating me like an afterthought. For a moment, despite everything, warmth bloomed in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally changing. I still wanted to believe my parents cared. I wanted my son, Liam, to know his grandparents, to feel the kind of love I grew up thinking was unconditional. So I called her back, holding on to hope. "Hi, Mom," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "What's the plan for Thanksgiving?" I imagined the smell of roasted turkey, the sound of laughter around the dining room table, Liam giggling while stealing marshmallows from the sweet potato casserole. He loved his grandparents, even if they didn't always seem to love him back. There was a pause on the other end. Too long. My stomach twisted. "Well," Mom finally said, clearing her throat, "this year we're doing things a little differently. It's going to be a smaller, more intimate gathering. Just adults." I froze. "No kids?" My voice cracked, betraying the ache rising in my chest. "Not this time," she said lightly, as if she were suggesting we skip dessert. "We just want a peaceful evening, you understand?" A bitter taste crept into my mouth. "And by we, do you mean you and Dad? Or does this apply to Rachel too?" I already knew the answer. My sister Rachel was the golden child. Perfect, successful, and, of course, invited. Another pause. I could almost hear her weighing her words. "Rachel and David are bringing their kids," Mom admitted, her tone tight. "But you know how well-behaved they are. Liam—" She trailed off as if she didn't need to finish the sentence. A wave of heat surged through me. "Liam is 4, Mom. He's not a problem. He's a child." My voice shook, but I refused to back down. "And he loves you. He asks about you all the time." "We love him too," she said quickly, too quickly. "But Amanda, he's a handful. Last year, he knocked over a glass and startled your father. It was a lot." I clenched my jaw, swallowing the anger bubbling in my throat. "So what? You're saying he's too much for one dinner?" "Don't make this into something it isn't," she sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "We just want a calm evening. Is that so much to ask?" A sharp ache pierced my chest. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was about every subtle rejection, every time they made me and Liam feel like we didn't belong. The way they doted on Rachel's children, showering them with expensive gifts while Liam got a token sweater, if that. The way they bragged about her perfect little family while barely acknowledging mine. I had spent years excusing it, convincing myself that if I tried harder, they would love Liam the way they loved Rachel's kids. But this was too much. "If Liam isn't welcome," I said quietly, "then neither am I." There was a silence so long and heavy it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Amanda?" Mom said, her voice clipped now. "Don't be dramatic. You and Liam are always welcome. Just not this time." "That sounds pretty clear to me," I snapped, years of hurt boiling over. "And for the record, I'm done being treated like I don't matter. I won't let you treat my son that way either." "Suit yourself," she said coldly, and then the line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, my heart pounding. In the next room, Liam was sprawled on the floor, building a castle out of wooden blocks. He looked up at me with his bright blue eyes and beamed. "Mommy, look." I forced a smile. "It's amazing, sweetheart." But inside, something cracked. I had spent my whole life chasing their approval, bending over backward to fit into a mold I was never meant for. I thought having Liam would soften them, that they would finally see me as enough. But it had only given them another way to show me how much I fell short. Not anymore. I wasn't going to let them make my son feel like he was less than anyone else. If they couldn't accept us as we were, they didn't deserve us at all. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Rachel. "Mom says you're being difficult about Thanksgiving," she said, her voice dripping with that condescending tone she had perfected since childhood. "Why do you always have to make everything so dramatic?" I laughed bitterly. Right, because refusing to exclude my child from a family holiday is dramatic. "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "You know how Liam can be. Mom just wants a quiet evening. Besides, it's just one dinner." "Funny," I said, my temper simmering. "Your kids are invited. Guess it's only a quiet evening when it's my son they're leaving out." Silence. Then, softer. "Mom and Dad do so much for you. You could show a little gratitude." Gratitude. I thought of the endless favors I did for them. Picking up prescriptions, fixing their Wi-Fi, running errands. I thought of the way they treated Liam as if his laughter was too loud, his presence too much. "Enjoy your perfect Thanksgiving, Rachel," I said, my voice ice cold. "We won't be there." Before she could reply, I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me. I was done begging for scraps of love. My son deserved better. So did I. And whether they liked it or not, I wasn't playing by their rules anymore. The days after that call were quieter than usual. Too quiet. I should have felt relief cutting ties, but there was an ache beneath the surface. A deep, hollow place inside me that had spent years hoping my parents would finally see me. Would finally see Liam. But if they wanted to push us aside, I was done trying to force my way into a family that refused to make room for us. And so I began pulling back. It started small. The little things I used to do without thinking, answering every call, dropping everything to help. I simply stopped. When Mom texted me 2 days later asking if I could pick up a prescription for her, I left it on red. I used to rearrange my entire schedule for them. If Dad's Wi-Fi wasn't working, I was the one they called. When they needed groceries, I was the one who dropped them off. For years, I was their safety net, always there when they needed something. But now I was done. The first time I ignored one of their calls, my heart pounded in my chest. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. They could manage on their own. But the guilt crept in anyway, a familiar voice whispering that I was being selfish, that they had done so much for me, and I owed them. But what about everything I had done? What about Liam, who barely got their attention? A week after the Thanksgiving call, Mom left a voicemail. Her tone was light, casual, too casual. "Hey, sweetie," she said, as if nothing had happened. "I know you've been busy, but your dad and I could really use your help with the Christmas lights. Call me when you get a chance." I deleted the message without listening to the rest. In the past, I would have been over there in a heartbeat, hauling boxes out of the garage, untangling wires, doing whatever they needed. But not this year. This year, they had made it clear who mattered. And it wasn't us. At first, I thought maybe they wouldn't notice, that they'd brush it off or find someone else to pick up the slack. But the calls didn't stop. Mom texted reminders, little requests disguised as concern. "Mom, hope you're doing okay, sweetie. Your dad needs help with the snowblower. It's acting up again." "Mom, I guess you're busy. I'll ask Rachel." And there it was. Rachel, the golden child. Of course, they'd turn to her when I stopped bending over backward. But even that wasn't enough, because when Rachel didn't jump in, they circled back to me. The texts shifted from requests to guilt. "Mom, I don't understand why you're being like this. We've always done so much for you." "Mom, I thought family meant helping each other. I guess I was wrong." I gritted my teeth reading those words. Family. That word, which was supposed to mean love and support, had become a weapon they wielded against me. Where was that sense of family when they decided Liam wasn't good enough to sit at their table? Where was that love when they made me feel small and unwanted? I wanted to scream. Instead, I put my phone face down on the counter and took a deep breath. Liam was sitting cross-legged on the floor, stacking blocks into a wobbly tower. He didn't know any of this. He didn't understand the weight pressing on my chest. All he knew was that his mom was there, and that was enough for him. I promised myself that I wouldn't let their guilt break me. Not this time. When they realized the guilt wasn't working, Mom called again. I shouldn't have answered. I knew better. But part of me, that part still desperate for their love, hoped maybe she would apologize. "Amanda," she said, her voice laced with forced concern. "I'm worried about you. You've been so distant." I laughed bitterly. "You mean since you told me my son wasn't welcome?" She sighed, exasperated. "We didn't mean it like that. You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I snapped. "I'm finally seeing things for what they are." Her voice hardened. "We've done so much for you, Amanda. You act like we're the enemy." "You made that choice," I said quietly, "when you decided Liam didn't matter." Silence stretched between us. For once, she had nothing to say. "I won't be your convenient daughter anymore," I added, my voice steady despite the tremble in my hands. "I'm done being the one you call when you need something while treating my child like an inconvenience." "Amanda." I ended the call before she could finish. And just like that, a weight lifted. Over the next few weeks, I reclaimed my time. When Liam wanted to go to the park, I took him. When he wanted to bake cookies, we made a mess of the kitchen. And when my parents called again, I let the phone ring. I was no longer their fixer, no longer the one they could rely on while making me feel like I was never enough. Christmas crept closer, and with it came one final attempt to pull me back. A text from Rachel this time. "Rachel, Mom says you haven't been returning her calls. You really should apologize." Apologize. I stared at the screen, disbelief coursing through me. After everything, they still expected me to be the one to fix it, as if I were the problem. I typed my replies slowly, each word deliberate. Me. They made their choice. I'm making mine. We won't be at Christmas. I hit send and turned my phone off. For the first time in years, I felt free. It was 2 weeks before Christmas when I discovered the truth. I had been balancing bills while Liam napped, scrolling through my banking app, when a transaction caught my eye. Then another, and another. Thousands of dollars had quietly slipped away, each charge more shocking than the last. My stomach twisted into a knot as the realization hit me. My parents had been using the credit card I opened for them years ago. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. Dad had lost his job temporarily, and Mom said they were struggling to keep up with medical bills. I wanted to help, so I opened the card in my name and handed it over. "Just until you get back on your feet," I had said. And I never thought about it again. Until now. My hands shook as I pulled up the statements. Luxury shopping, expensive dinners, spa visits. None of these were emergencies. They were indulgences. I had been cutting coupons and budgeting to give Liam the best life I could, while they were out enjoying weekends at upscale resorts. Anger surged through me, hot and sharp. Without a second thought, I called the bank and had the card blocked. I was done. The phone rang less than an hour later. Of course, it was Mom. "Amanda," she snapped the moment I answered. "What did you do? The card is being declined." I took a slow breath, forcing calm into my voice. "I canceled it." "You did what?" Her voice pitched higher, that familiar edge of entitlement creeping in. "Why on earth would you do that? We were using it." "Exactly," I said coolly. "I didn't give you that card so you could treat yourselves while I scrape by. Do you even realize how much you've spent?" She huffed, indignant. "We've always been there for you. After everything we've done, this is how you repay us?" My fingers curled into a fist. "Being there for me? You mean like when you told me Liam wasn't welcome?" There was a long, seething pause on the other end of the line. "You're being ungrateful," she finally spat. "Your father and I sacrificed everything for you." If it weren't for us, you wouldn't have the life you do. And now you want to punish us? I let out a bitter laugh. Punish you? I've spent my entire adult life paying you back for things I never asked for. I've run errands, fixed your messes, and handed you a credit card without question. But when I ask for the bare minimum, love and respect for my son, I get told we're not good enough. That's not fair, she snapped. You know how much we've done for you. And you know how much I've done for you, I fired back. But it stops now. I'm not your bank. I'm not your fix-it girl. I'm your daughter, and if that's not enough without my wallet, then we have nothing left to talk about. Amanda. I hung up. My heart pounded in my chest as I set the phone down. I expected the guilt to come crashing in, that familiar wave telling me I had gone too far. But all I felt was relief. For the first time in years, I had drawn a line. And I wasn't about to cross it. The next few days were eerily quiet. No texts, no calls. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't cleaning up their messes. Instead, I spent my evenings with Liam. We baked cookies, watched Christmas movies, and laughed until our sides hurt. For once, I wasn't distracted by my phone buzzing with their demands. Then, just when I thought maybe they had finally let it go, Rachel called. Amanda, what did you do? She asked, her voice tight with irritation. Mom is freaking out. She says you cut them off. I sighed, already exhausted. I canceled a credit card they had no right to be using. That's all. You know they relied on that, Rachel said, like I was supposed to care. You didn't even warn them? Why should I? I snapped. They didn't warn me while they were spending thousands of dollars. And for what? Manicures? Weekend getaways? I was struggling to give my kid a decent Christmas while they were living like nothing mattered. It's not about the money, Rachel argued. They feel betrayed. After everything they've done for us, how could you just turn your back on them like this? A bitter laugh escaped my throat. Everything they've done? Do you mean the years of making me feel like a failure? Acting like Liam is some burden while treating your kids like royalty? Or is it the manipulation, the guilt trips, the constant demand that I give more, be more, do more, all while they take and take and take? They love you, Rachel insisted weakly. No, they love controlling me, I corrected. And I'm done being their puppet. There was silence on the other end. When Rachel finally spoke again, her voice was softer. You know they'll never forgive you for this, right? I closed my eyes, letting the weight of her words sink in. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was the final nail in the coffin of whatever fragile bond we had left. But as I opened my eyes and saw Liam, his face smeared with flour as he giggled over our half-burnt cookies, I knew one thing for sure. I didn't need their forgiveness, not if it meant sacrificing my peace. Then that's on them, I said quietly. I'm done apologizing for wanting better for myself and my son. I hung up the phone and returned to the kitchen, where Liam was carefully decorating a sugar cookie with way too many sprinkles. He looked up at me, his smile wide and innocent. Mommy, can we leave some cookies for Santa? He asked brightly. I bent down, pressing a kiss to his forehead. Of course we can, sweetheart. Santa loves cookies. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free. Christmas morning was supposed to be filled with warmth, joy, and the laughter of children. Instead, I stood frozen at my front door, staring at the people who had caused me more pain than I ever thought possible. My parents. They stood there with forced smiles, their hands full of wrapped boxes, each one more extravagant than the last. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. My mother cooed, holding out a box wrapped in shimmering gold paper. We brought gifts for Liam. I looked down at Liam, who clutched my leg, his bright eyes flickering with confusion. He didn't reach for the presents. He knew, even at 4 years old, that something was wrong. You think expensive gifts will erase everything you've done? My voice was calm, but my hands trembled. My father scoffed. Amanda, don't be so dramatic. We just want to give our grandson a good Christmas. I let out a bitter laugh. A grandson you couldn't even make space for at Thanksgiving? A grandson you treat like an outsider while Rachel's kids get your love and attention? My mother sighed heavily. We didn't come here to fight. We just want to make things right. Let us in. No, I said firmly. You don't get to buy your way back into our lives. Liam doesn't need presents from people who don't truly love him. My father's face darkened. Amanda, don't be unreasonable. We are still your parents. I felt the familiar guilt creeping in, but I pushed it away. Not this time. No, you were my parents. But parents don't make their children feel worthless. They don't choose control over love. They don't use money to manipulate and guilt trip. My mother's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. You think you don't need us, but one day you will. And there it was. The veiled threat. The final attempt to pull me back under their control. But I wasn't the same woman they had molded through years of guilt and obligation. If needing you means sacrificing my dignity and my son's happiness, then no. I don't need you. They stared at me, stunned into silence. For the first time in my life, I had shut them down before they could twist my words, before they could manipulate me into compliance. Please leave, I said, my voice steady. My father's jaw clenched, and my mother shook her head in disappointment as if I were the one who had failed them. They turned and walked away, leaving the expensive gifts on the porch. I didn't watch them go. Instead, I bent down to Liam, who looked up at me with his big, innocent eyes. Mommy, he whispered. Are you okay? I smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in weeks. I am now, sweetheart. And as I picked him up and shut the door on my past, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time in my life, I was free. But the battle wasn't over. The following day, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it ring, assuming it was another attempt by my mother to guilt trip me. But then a voicemail popped up. Curious, I played it. Ms. Carter, this is David Reynolds from Carter and Mitchell Law Firm. We've been retained by your parents to discuss a financial matter concerning unpaid debts. Please return our call at your earliest convenience. My heart pounded in my chest. Unpaid debts? What were they trying to pull now? I called back, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. When the lawyer answered, his voice was smooth, professional, detached. Ms. Carter, your parents have filed a claim requesting financial compensation for the cost of raising you. They believe they are entitled to reimbursement for expenses related to your upbringing. I nearly dropped the phone. Excuse me? I choked out. They're suing me for the cost of raising me? Correct, he said without hesitation. They claim they provided you with food, housing, education, and other necessities, and they now wish to recover those expenses. My head spun. This was insanity. I had heard of toxic parents, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. I took a deep breath. This is ridiculous. They've financially drained me for years. They used my credit, manipulated me into paying their bills, and now they think they can squeeze more out of me? The lawyer hesitated. If you have counterclaims, you may want to seek legal counsel. I'm simply relaying their position. I hung up, fury and disbelief battling within me. How could they stoop this low? They had already taken so much from me. My self-worth, my trust, my peace. And now they wanted more? I wouldn't let them win. That evening, I called a lawyer of my own. After explaining everything, Thanksgiving, the credit card fraud, the emotional manipulation, she let out a low whistle. This is a classic case of financial and emotional abuse, she said. And trust me, no judge in their right mind will grant them a single penny. But we need to take this seriously. If they're willing to sue their own daughter, they won't stop there. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. She was right. My parents weren't just trying to punish me. They were trying to control me. But they had underestimated me. For the next few weeks, I documented everything. Every text, every voicemail, every bank statement showing their fraudulent spending. I built a case. Not just to defend myself, but to ensure they could never manipulate me again. Then, right before the court date, my mother called. This time I answered. "Amanda," she started, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Can we talk?" "We'll talk in court," I said coldly. "You don't have to do this," she said quickly. "We're family. Family doesn't do this." I cut in. "You made your choice. Now live with it." For the first time, she had no response. On the day of the hearing, my parents didn't even show up. Their lawyer withdrew the case, citing lack of merit. It was over before it even started. As I left the courthouse, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness, triumph. The chapter of my life ruled by their control was finally closed. I looked down at Liam, who held my hand, blissfully unaware of the storm I had just weathered. "Let's go home, baby," I whispered. Because for the first time, I knew exactly what home meant. It wasn't a place. It wasn't the approval of people who had never truly loved me. Home was freedom. And I had finally found it.